Has Kyler Murray become the fall guy for the Arizona Cardinals organization, or is the vitriol pointed in his direction valid? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I mean, let me explain what the cold open was about, okay? Don't just, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Twitter has been an absolute circus. If you're not on Cardinals Twitter in any sort of form or fashion, download the app and just watch. It is so much fun. It is up, down, topsy-turvy, great, bad. No, it's not bad, but the conversations, the arguments, it's the best free app out there. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NFL, Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. So Cardinals lose. I don't know if you've been under a rock for the last 24 hours. If you have, hopefully it was soothing and relaxing for you. The Cardinals lose 34-13. Just gross. Just gross everywhere in every way. They scored 10 points in the last 2.5 minutes of the second quarter to make a game out of it, kind of. And then the second half was gross. We're seeing the broadest of broad spectrum of who's at fault, finger pointing, who's to blame, all of it. In the final segment, what now? What does it mean? I'll discuss. Not as bad as it seems, second segment. Everything's going to be fine between now and the second segment. We'll see if everything's going to be fine for the future of this organization. But as of now, it's not as bad as it seems, and I'll explain. So, is Kyler Murray the fall guy? This is the question. This is kind of the overarching theme of the last 24 hours or so. 48 hours, because this is the Tuesday show. Whatever it is. It seems as though, and every day, as you'll know this, I've been always on closer to the side of Kyler Murray than the organization, the last regime, et cetera. And I think rightfully so. I don't think that's an irrational spot to be on. Irrational spot to be at. Now, naturally, things are different. New regime, new culture, everything, all the positives that are here now weren't necessarily here a couple years ago. I've always been not an apologist for Kyler Murray, but a broader thinker than just, this number shows that he's not a good quarterback, or this number percentage efficiency-wise shows that he's not a good quarterback. I look at the grander scheme of things, like look at the rest of the NFL. And while there are times where I say, and I've said myriad times, you can't compare the Cardinals to other organizations in this respect because the Cardinals are running their own race. It has nothing to do with the growth and maturity and roster building of other organizations because it's just the Cardinals. Now, when it comes to the quarterback position, I waver off that a little bit. Because removing the people who thought that Kyler Murray was never the guy, okay, so let's take those people. Let's take the people who are thinking Kyler Murray's always the guy. Let's take those people out and let's kind of focus on the middle. When you look at the Cardinals and you look at, let's take from when he came back last year through 6 weeks this year, I'd be hard-pressed to find 15 quarterbacks. I find it hard. I'd be hard-pressed to say that Kyler Murray's a bottom 15 quarterback. Is he top 10? Maybe not. Is he bottom 15? No. Look outside the confines of Arizona Cardinals football. Let's do an exercise. After watching this, just look at the standings and look at all the other quarterbacks in the rest of the NFL. And look at how much bad, mediocre quarterback play there is. Kyler Murray is not an MVP this year, obviously. Kyler Murray is also far and away not one of the top 7 biggest reasons the Cardinals are losing more games than they win. So seeing it in a lens more than just, oh, it's the quarterback's fault. It's always the quarterback's fault because the quarterback gets all the credit. Because it's the quarterback, it's a quarterback. That's fall guy mentality. Oh, it's got to be Kyler Murray. Oh, he's not 6'4". Oh, he hasn't won a playoff game. It's definitely his fault that the Cardinals are 2-4. Is he partially to blame? Absolutely. Does he deserve more of the weight of the blame, even though he's only partially responsible because he's the quarterback? Absolutely. That's not what this is about. This is about an existential crisis that fans and the Cardinals, while different, are sharing an existential crisis just in different ways. With the state of the Arizona Cardinals and when the losing is going to stop and when winning more games than they lose will happen. That's where we are. And it's like the Westworld show where there's like 7 different timelines that are happening at the same time. That's where we are. And it's just this bucket of yuck that is fans, the Cardinals need to win more games. Cardinals, the defense isn't where it needs to be. It's for 2025. That was always the plan. And now there's this perfect storm crash course of win more games. Wait, but we can't because the roster building is not there. Well, why not? Well, because it wasn't left in the best way when we took over Monty Osborne, Jonathan Gannon, speaking as them. Yeah, but Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray, win more games. It's just this. It's like people are speaking 38 different languages trying to have a conversation about the current state and the future pacing state of this organization. And everybody's upset. And while in a vacuum, that sounds like one of the most convoluted, like 30 seconds of podcast/radio I've ever done. It may be the most sensical 30 seconds I've done. Everybody's speaking from a different mountaintop in a different country, all trying to just have a conversation about the state of this team. And the easiest common denominator is the quarterback. Always blame the quarterback. And that's why through Twitter, it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic. Kyler Murray has not played great during chunks of this season. 1,000,000%. I'm not an apologist during this segment. I'm just, he hasn't played great. Well, the EPA and all this stuff. Just watch football. Just watch football. Use your eyes. He's top 10 in QBR. So, with that, has he made enough elevated plays in an effort to shoulder the load of a bad defense? No. Could any quarterback outside of the top 3 or 4 do that with more success than Kyler Murray? Maybe, but it's not like eons apart. The roster is currently constructed on top of the injuries to the impact players that the Cardinals could not afford to lose because you're White, Marvin Harrison Jr., Bija Ojulari, Darius Robinson, coupled with the offseason acquisitions, namely on the defense, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, and Sean Murphy-Bunting not working. Could be a lot worse. The Cardinals could be 0-6 right now. And that's not just, there are 6 games, and if they didn't win any, we just say 0-6. No. If you told me they were 0-6, and I didn't watch any games, you told me they were 0-6 going into week 7, I'd be like, that sucks, but yeah, all right. Makes sense. Not as much, it doesn't make complete rational sense, but like, well, I guess a couple balls bounced the other way. Kyler Murray may have got hurt, something like that. And then if you look at the 6 games that were played, they played terribly in 2 of them, against Washington and this past week against Green Bay. So as they sit at 2-4, they have a much better chance of being 4-2 right now than 0-6 or 1-5. They were a possession away from Buffalo and a possession away from Detroit. The offense went up 17-3 against Buffalo. The defense couldn't stop anybody. And then in Detroit, against Detroit in Arizona at State Farm Stadium, the defense carried the weight in the second half and the offense couldn't do anything. So the frustrating part, I think, for the majority of people now is, where do you point the finger? What can change first in an effort to stabilize things? And people don't have the answer yet. So, Kyler Murray, you're the fall guy. That's just where it is through 6 weeks. Every week, I say this every week, and I will continue to do so through week 18. Every game is a different chapter to a different book, and they're just putting this collection together and saying, this is the Arizona Cardinals season in 2024. It's been one of the more brain-bending things that I've experienced since being, coming in sports radio in 2011 in Phoenix. Like, you never know what you're going to get. Terrifying? Not really. They're just trying to find the identity. But I will say, things aren't as bad as it seems through week 6. And I'll explain why next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Well, this episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. We're in the information age. I think the information age has been like the last 20 years or something. But the more information you can have before putting some cheese down on a wager that you choose, the better. And FanDuel makes it easier than ever to have all that information in real time before you place your wager. Plus, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by our lovely friends at PrizePicks. I love PrizePicks. I mean, I downloaded the app, a couple years ago now, and it's getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Like, it started great, and it's somehow getting better. If you never used PrizePicks before, you pick between 2 and 6 stat projections, and you pick more or less than those projected stats, and you win up to 100 times your cheese, man. Like, there's billions of dollars in funds that have been giving out. You can get withdrawals in 15 minutes or less, and it takes less than 60 seconds to make an entry. It makes daily fantasy the easiest it's ever been. Like, it is so much fun. And so say, you put some cheese in your deposit and say you win, whatever it is. But what if it took like 2 weeks to get, the withdrawal or whatever? Like, that would put a damper on all of it. Now, PrizePicks could take as quickly as 15 minutes. That's absolutely insane. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. So this hasn't been fun the last 36 hours, 48 hours. I think, is that safe to say? Hasn't been fun. The only thing that's worse than having a problem is not knowing the root of that problem or where that problem comes from. And I don't think that's the issue for the Cardinals right now. They got problems the majority of places. With that, it could be a lot worse. It's not as bad as it seems. And I almost didn't do this segment because I have to be very careful with how I maneuver around. It's not as bad as it seems after getting blown out on the road and falling to 2-4 through 6 weeks, after what happened last year, after what happened in 2022, and after what happened the second half of 2021 that sparked the entirety of this. Still, it's not as bad as it seems. And it's not, they're not 1-5 or 0-6, so it's not as bad as it seems. No. Hopefully at this point, you know that I bring better content than that. I treat you like adults. I'm not going to split hairs like that just to fill 8 minutes. The Cardinals are 2-4. If they had a better record than 2-4 through 6 weeks, I would have been shocked. when the season started. Buffalo, Rams, Detroit, Washington, San Francisco, Green Bay. How's that for short-term memory, baby? The teams they beat, sure, wouldn't have had on my bingo card. But I would have had them beating Washington for sure. And then maybe Green Bay or maybe Detroit on the road traveling. You know, the Lions and Cardinals have had this weird relationship when they play each other over the last 5 or 6 seasons. 2-4, yeah. Below 500, yeah. It's been ugly for a good chunk of the first 6 weeks. And the redeeming qualities that we have seen. And I'm not just talking about, the Cardinals putting up a 40-burger against a depleted Rams team, or the Cardinals going to Levi 2 weeks ago and Kyler Murray, knowing it was a touchdown at the 45-yard line or 50-yard line, whatever it was. Like, the redeeming qualities that I've seen this year that have real lasting potential. Paris Johnson Jr., they've got their left tackle. Yalta Froholt, they've got their center. Will Hernandez, before the season, before he got injured 2 weeks ago, they've got their right guard. 3 out of 5 is very, very good on the offensive line. And then Kelvin Beachum's been fine. He's been fine. The offensive line's been fine. And it's at the point where Paris Johnson Jr. hopefully be the left tackle for the Cardinals for the next decade. Okay, so that's one. Number 2, Mack Wilson has looked great alongside Kazir White. He's looked great. Not just average. He's looked great. And that's something that has lasting impact. Where Kazir White, I think, is up after this year. I don't see a world where he doesn't sign an extension with this team. Let's go to the young guys. While Marvin Harrison Jr., went out with the concussion, you'd think, we'll see if he plays on Monday. The fact that they play Monday night, that extra 24 hours is massive to see if he'll be able to withstand it. When I'm recording this podcast, we don't have any more information on Kazir White, or any of the other injuries that were sustained on Sunday, Sean Murphy-Bunting, etc. He's shown flashes that the game isn't too fast for him. We saw the we saw the Rams game. There's been a couple of the 4th down conversion against the 49ers. We've seen in spurts the special. It's up to him and Kyler Murray to work on that. It's been 5 games. Look at how much more comfortable Kyler Murray and Michael Wilson are this year than they were last year. It's reps. It's NFL game time reps. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been fine. And then Trey McBride is really starting to emerge as that guy. And you're going to hear a lot about Trey McBride from now through the game on Monday from me. I'll do at least 2 segments on him in different ways. Trey McBride, as advertised, bona fide tight end 1. And with Marv, if Marv misses time or if the run game starts to falter, McBride could eat in epic proportions. And then for the younger guys on defense, Max Melton, Garrett Williams, Adrian Taylor-Demerson, they're dudes. So it's like the Cardinals roster right now for the younger players. It's like getting a piece of cake as a present, but you're not allowed to eat it right now. You're not allowed to enjoy it the way you want to right now. You might have to wait a year. And it's frozen. It's not going to get moldy, okay? Just go with me here. You're not seeing the direct dividends from it right now because the defense is in shambles. The pass rush is non-existent. Garrett Williams, he did get beat. I believe it was by Romeo Doubs, but, listen. When the Cardinals have no pass rush, even if this was the best secondary in football, it wouldn't look like that if you're not going to get pressure on a quarterback. Jordan Love's jersey was cleaner when the game ended than when it started. So, there's only so much, especially younger guys. Like Max Melton looked fine, okay? He's not a problem in the secondary. Sean Murphy-Bunting is a problem. Max Melton is not a problem. He's a rookie. He's learning. He's growing. He's getting better every week. And then Taylor-Demerson, I'm not ready to have this conversation yet. People are starting to murmur about it. I'm like, let's just chill for a second. Jalen Thompson hasn't played great during a chunk of this season. Taylor-Demerson has. Taylor-Demerson is a traditional strong safety. Taylor-Demerson could be supplanting Jalen Thompson for touches, and they can move Jalen Thompson into the slot maybe and have Rabbit play alongside Budda Baker and see what the kid's got. This is the time of year where you may start to see, and I alluded to this a couple weeks ago, you may start to see Max Melton take over those snaps for Sean Murphy punting. You may start to see that, and that's the exciting stuff. That's the redeeming quality of a season that looks very clunky and very gross at times. But with one of my favorite, I guess, one of the things to say was the future pacing positive portion of this season lies within young guys from the last 2 drafts who are popping. There's still a lot of TBD, but Paris Johnson Jr., Trey McBride was a couple drafts ago, but I'm grouping him in here. Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Taylor-Demerson. It's not as bad as it seems. It's just right now, all of those things aren't directly correlating to more wins than losses. And that's the overarching reason why people are all just like, what the hell's going on here? What the hell's going on here? So what now? What now? What now? The third time was really for emphasis, just for you. We'll discuss it next. Locked on Cardinals. Your team every dang day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Another one of my absolute favorites. The Game Time app makes finding tickets easy. They've got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks, it filters out all the fluff. So it allows you to find incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time and energy searching through thousands of tickets. On top of all of that, they've got a feature called all-in pricing, where you have to toggle this. You go to the app, and then you can toggle to all-in pricing, where it'll show you all the stuff, whether it be a comedy show or a Suns game that's coming around the corner, Cardinals game, whatever it is, and you can toggle to all-in pricing, where when you're looking at the sections and the rows, it gives you that number, where it's like, okay, this is what taxes and everything included, this is what you're going to pay. So you don't have to be like, okay, it's going to be this, but how much are the fees and the taxes and everything like that. The panoramic seat views, biggest thing for me. You go to a seat, you're like, hey, I haven't sat in section 200 at State Farm Stadium. Let me see what it looks like. You click on the thing, and it gives you the vantage point of what you're going to be seeing before you buy the tickets. It's an absolute game changer. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. One thing that I didn't mention in the last segment that is things are not as bad as it seems is the Cardinals were the least penalized team in the NFL before week 6. So the things that we witnessed, the 3 fumbles, at this point in the season, there are exceptions to the rule and not the rule. The Cardinals in years past, you'd say, oh, wow, they were only penalized 4 times for 60 yards today. That's an improvement. That's not what this is. Yeah, they were outmatched mentally, physically, emotionally, everything on Sunday, and it showed. And it was gross. And it is a great reminder that the NFL is hard. It doesn't matter what you've done the weeks before. Penalties are penalties, and the Cardinals shot themselves in the foot, namely on defense, trying to get off the field, and they just couldn't get out of their own way. 2 neutral zone infractions by Zaven Collins, 1 by Bilal Nichols. It's like, this isn't Pee Wee football, man. Stay behind the line of scrimmage. They weren't even on hard counts. They were just lining up in the neutral zone. It's like, what are we doing here? It's not like the Packers are like this overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl and people get ants in their pants when they play them. The Cardinals just weren't prepared. It was the weirdest. It was an anomaly with the penalties and then the turnovers on offense. So at least, and this is, I guess, a green ribbon thing. I'll give you the green ribbon family who thinks that all I did last year was give out participation trophies, which I did, but it was for the bigger picture You see more of that. You see what's happening this year. If you see that in 2024, there's going to be more impacts being made. We're seeing it with Garrett Williams in small sample sizes because he only played a handful of games last year. But yes, the green ribbon given out today is this was the exception to the rule and not the rule so far through 2024. And whether you believe in the Cardinals or you don't, that's just true. I mean, that's a statistical truth. They were the least penalized team in football going into week 6. And then that was a statistical anomaly compared to what we've seen up until this point in 2024. The turnovers, fumbles, James Conner doesn't fumble the ball. Greg Dortch doesn't fumble the ball. And then Kyler Murray and Trey Benson, they were down 3 scores with like 4 minutes left. It's like, okay. It's not like it was a 1-score game and the Cardinals were driving and they fumbled. While it doesn't matter, fumbles, turnover, whatever it is, it's grain of salt. So what now? What now? And I will be doing a full Drew Petzing segment tomorrow, okay? So don't get your keister in a bunch here. I will be doing a Drew Petzing segment tomorrow. What now? This is pretty simple for me. Go back to how you were playing the week before. And I'm not saying it in win-loss. I'm saying with the regimented, militaristic nature of be poised, don't beat yourselves, and go out and try and win a game at home on Monday Night Football. It's sometimes Occam's razor, I think it is. The simplest answer is a lot of times the correct one. I don't foresee a Jonathan Gannon-led team having 13 penalties again. Period. In a game, period. That was I could be crazy. I could be in the minority here. I'm not sure. Those dreams where, for me, it's basketball. I played basketball growing up my entire life. I played, through high school and I played intramurals in college, but I played a lot. My nightmare dreams would be playing a basketball game and not knowing how to dribble, during my dream. I'm like, what is going on here? My hands can't move. Or when you can't speak during your dreams or something like that. That's what I feel like we witnessed on Sunday against Green Bay. Just everything. There was no reality that anybody would ever think 13 for 100 would happen with 3 fumbles to boot. So what now is you watch that tape, you embarrass the hell out of yourselves. I'm not saying Jonathan Gannon doing it to the guys, but everybody watching film together be like, wow, it's unacceptable. The standards the Cardinals have now don't allow for those things to happen. And going into the rest of the week and into Monday, what now? Don't do it again. This isn't Armageddon. The Cardinals are not 0-6 for now. It's not Armageddon for now. If the Jim Harbaugh-led Chargers come in to town Monday night and beat the Cardinals 34-3 or something like that, and the defense is just a burlap sack on this offense, and the Cardinals defense can't stop anybody, we may be having different conversations. We may be talking about trading Budda Baker. We may be talking about trading James Conner. When I say may, I think those things are further from happening than the Cardinals coming in and playing a competitive game on Monday and alleviating any sort of stress that comes to, just removing the roster from any veteran talent, from the roster. I think the Cardinals are going to be able to sustain the blows that they took on Sunday, emotional and physical and mental, and being able to pivot into a positive this week and play a competitive game Monday night. I think that because that's what's happened ever since Jonathan Gannon took over, regardless of win-loss. Every week, there can be uncomfortable conversations, and there can be very uplifting conversations after something positive happens in regards to a win on game day. This is a very, very fluid situation when it comes to the Cardinals. There's no definition on what the rest of this season is going to look like. I told you when the season started, we have no idea what the hell is going to happen. It's going to be exciting, though. This is the outfit that exciting is wearing after the Cardinals get embarrassed on the road at Lambeau. Could be very different if the Cardinals get a win Monday night at home against the Chargers, completely bounce back from the embarrassment that happened 2 days ago. All I know right now is Kyler Murray is looked at as the fall guy. It's not as bad as it seems. And the Cardinals just need to erase everything that happened regarding penalties and turnovers from Sunday moving forward. And they have up until this point. So it's not a far-fetched idea that it'll happen again. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.